When I was 10, I watched Star Wars for the first time and immediately decided to become a spaceship pilot. I even tried to build a lightsaber out of a flashlight and some duct tape. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. But what really stuck with me wasn't the space battles or the lightsabers. It was the idea that humans could travel across the galaxy in seconds, live on other planets, and walk around starships like they were fancy hotels on Earth. Now that I'm a little older, and less convinced I can build a sci-fi worthy space engine in my garage, I started wondering, how much of those science fiction ideas are actually science? And how much is just really good storytelling? Today we're breaking down 3 of my favorite sci-fi space ideas. Warp drive, where spacecraft travel faster than the speed of light. Artificial gravity, which creates Earth-like gravity inside spaceships so astronauts don't float around. And colonizing other worlds, the idea of humans living on planets beyond Earth. We'll figure out which ones are based on real science, which are a stretch, and how these stories shape the way we think about space exploration. Let's get started and see just how close we are to turning science fiction into reality. Let's kick off with one of science fiction's coolest travel ideas, the warp drive. It gets called a lot of different things, but the basic idea? A spaceship travels faster than light by warping or bending space-time. 1 second you're near Earth, and the next you're halfway across the galaxy. Sounds awesome, right? But here's the catch. Real physics says nothing, not ships, not people, not pizza delivery rockets, can travel faster than the speed of light. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, the closer something with mass gets to light speed, the more energy it takes to keep accelerating. If you actually hit the speed of light, you'd need infinite energy, which we don't have. But sci-fi writers didn't want their stories to span thousands of years of slow space travel, so they imagined the warp drive. It's a clever way to cheat the speed limit, but it can also make people think traveling faster than light might be possible in the near future. And that's just not where the science is right now. However, Einstein's theory of relativity does give us something strange and real to think about when discussing space travel. According to Einstein, time doesn't move at the same speed for everyone. If you were in a ship going near the speed of light, time would slow down for you compared to people back on Earth. This is called time dilation. It's a real effect. We've measured it with satellites and atomic clocks. So if you ever could travel close to the speed of light, you might only age a few years while decades pass back home. It's not exactly warp speed, but the idea is still pretty mind-bending. So is the warp drive real? Not even close. Is it based on cool science? Absolutely. And it gets us asking the right questions about how space-time actually works, so that we might be able to push the limits. Someday. Okay, I'll admit it. Artificial gravity is one of my favorite sci-fi tricks. It's the idea that you can create gravity inside a spaceship without a massive object like a planet nearby. I remember watching movies where people were flying through space at ridiculous speeds. But inside the ship, they were strolling around like normal, reading books, drinking coffee, not floating at all. According to the movies, walking in a spaceship wasn't a problem whatsoever. But in real life, gravity doesn't come preloaded on your spaceship. On Earth, we feel gravity because the planet's mass pulls us toward it. However, as distance increases between a spacecraft and a large object like Earth, gravity weakens quickly. Even astronauts on spacecraft orbiting close to Earth, like the International Space Station, experience weaker gravity. For them, everything floats because they're in constant freefall around the Earth, a condition known as microgravity. So if you want to walk on a spaceship like you do on Earth, you need some clever tricks. There is one idea scientists have proposed: spinning the ship. Wait, not the whole ship, just a part of it. By spinning a part of a spacecraft, you can create something called centrifugal force. It pushes objects outward, kind of like how you get pressed to the wall on a spinning carnival ride. That force can mimic gravity. Engineers have seriously studied ideas like these, because floating around all the time, not as fun as it looks. Astronauts lose muscle, bone density, and even risk vision problems on long missions. Gravity, or at least something like it, might be necessary for long-term survival in space. But here's where science fiction bends the rules. Most stories skip the explanation. Gravity just works. Unless you're really paying attention, you might not even realize how big a deal that is. That's the danger of how sci-fi shapes what we imagine. If movies and books always portray space travel as easy, it can make the real challenges feel smaller than they are. So is artificial gravity real? Not yet. Could it be? Maybe with enough spinning and some serious engineering. But for now, when you see characters casually strolling through spaceships, you're watching a bit of movie magic. Let's talk about another classic science fiction concept: building a home on another world. People step out of a spaceship, set up a base, and say, "Yep, this dusty, lifeless planet, we live here now." They land, unpack a few high-tech gadgets, and suddenly they've got cozy homes and working farms. Sometimes they even skip straight to full-on forests and oceans thanks to a process called terraforming. Terraforming is the idea of transforming a planet's environment, changing the atmosphere, temperature, and maybe even the landscape to make it more like Earth. In sci-fi, this usually involves giant machines pumping out breathable air, melting ice caps, or somehow activating a planet's ability to support life. But in reality, terraforming a planet like Mars would be a massive, centuries-long challenge, if it's even possible. You'd need to warm the planet, thicken its atmosphere, and somehow create a magnetic field to protect it from solar radiation. That's way beyond anything we can do with today's technology. Still, the idea of living on another world isn't all fiction. NASA, some private companies, and other agencies around the world are seriously studying what it would take to build colonies on the Moon or Mars. These wouldn't be the kind of homes most of us are used to on Earth. They'd be harsh, high-tech habitats, probably underground or covered in protective shielding. But they'd be real. Space agencies and researchers are testing things like growing food in sealed habitats, building with local materials, and recycling every drop of water. It's exciting to imagine humans one day calling another planet home. But that brings up an important question. Just because we can try to colonize another world, should we? Pause the video and record your thoughts. It's a question with no easy answer. Some people see colonizing another world as a way to protect our species if Earth ever becomes uninhabitable. Others worry about the ethical and environmental impact of humans taking over another planet. There are a lot of opinions, and it's something we'll need to think about carefully. We're not quite ready to colonize another world just yet, but every small step brings us closer to that possibility. So, warp drives, artificial gravity, living on other planets. We've covered a lot today. And these aren't the only science fiction ideas with roots in real science. From robots and AI to asteroid mining and alien contact, there's a whole universe of sci-fi concepts that spark curiosity and connect back to real scientific questions. But where's the line between science and science fiction? Some of the ideas we see in science fiction are rooted in real science, like time dilation or spinning a ship to mimic gravity. Others, not so much. Instant travel across the galaxy, whole planets transformed into tropical getaways? That's still firmly in the fiction zone. But here's what makes it all awesome. Science fiction gets us thinking. It takes real ideas like relativity, space travel, or life beyond Earth, and asks, what if we took this to the next level? Engineers, astronauts, and physicists have even said that science fiction is what got them curious about space in the first place. So the next time you're watching or reading about a spaceship zooming past the speed of light or landing on a perfectly terraformed Mars, ask yourself, how much of this is real? How much could be real? And how much is just a great story? No matter the answer, keep dreaming big, because today's science fiction, it might be tomorrow's science. I'll see you next time.
Hey, hey.